Fountain has a really interesting history. Initially, we were in support of the ranchers and farmers who initially settled in the area. Prior to that, this was a hunting ground, winter hunting ground for the Ute Indians. So you still can find arrowheads down on Fountain Creek. And we were a very small community until in 1858, the railroads came through. And the railroad on the west side of town was the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. The one on the east side of town is the Denver and Rio Grande at that time. In 1888, three train cars escaped from Colorado Springs. Somebody let them loose, and of course we're downgrade from there, downhill from there. So when these three train cars got to Fountain, they derailed. One was a caboose, one was a car that had naphtha oil in it, which is very flammable, and the other train car had dynamite in it. So when it derailed and the naphtha oil immediately caught on fire, the city set up a bucket brigade to try to put out the fire. There was a train parked at the depot, a passenger train from Pueblo, and the station master got a message that there was dynamite on that train. So they backed up the passenger train. Nobody on the train was hurt at all. Miraculously, when the dynamite exploded, it wiped out most of Fountain. I totally leveled it. Only four people were killed. One, there was a body in the caboose, and they think that was the reason that they let the train cars loose, was to cover up the murder. And he was a railroad agent, so who knows what the reason was. One was one of the town leaders, and he was on the top of the depot with the bucket brigade. And one man was on the caboose with the bucket brigade. And they were both killed, as was a woman who was about 2 blocks away, and she was hit in the head with a piece of railroad rail and died the next day. There's a whole list of people who were injured, and the payouts by the railroad at that time, compared to that kind of an accident today, that's no comparison. But one of the interesting tidbits from that was the bell tower that's on the Baptist church, that's right here catty corner from our museum, survived the blast. And when they rebuilt the church, they put the bell tower onto the new church. It was originally rebuilt over by where the blast occurred. Then they later moved it further into town, so now it's here on Main Street, right across the street from us. But it's interesting that the bell tower survived. Most of the town eventually rebuilt, and a few buildings survived. The Main Street area, the west side of the street is made of river rock and cement in those buildings, and they survived. Previous to the town hall building that's on the east side of Main Street was built out of river rock as well, and it survived the blast. But we have a book here in the museum that shows pictures of the results of the blast, and it just looks like a huge debris field. with nothing. So it's interesting that the city was able to recover. The blast was felt in Colorado Springs and in Pueblo, so a train car load of dynamite is pretty efficient at blowing things up. But I think it's interesting that they were the reason the city became a city and not just a trading post in the 1800s. And they were also responsible for almost blowing us out of the water. There is a story, and I don't know if it's true, but I hate for the truth to get in the way of a good story. But Fountain was being considered for the capital of the state of Colorado, along with Old Colorado City and Denver. And we were literally blown out of the competition, unfortunately. But we have details here in our museum of the blast and little tidbits of newspaper articles from the time, which are interesting in the verbiage as compared to what we see in newspaper articles today. But it was a significant event in Colorado and in Fountain especially.